I think it's yeah, we're live. Hello, everybody. I am joined with Sharon Griffin, who is my amazing friend, a ceramicist sculptor who is based in my area and is very, very successfully selling her art. So I asked Sharon if she would come in as a guest today to talk with us all and answer any questions that you have. So thank you, Sharon, for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Actually, it's awesome. I love these kind of things.
I know Sharon's very, very busy because she's getting ready for a show at the moment, and so she's busy in creation mode. So I really appreciate you carving out this little bit of time to speak with us. If you're not aware, Sharon has created a deep dive lesson inside the deep dive area inside the hub, which is all about how she uses Instagram. If you've seen that lesson and you've got questions, I will put the link into the lesson afterwards. I think I might have put the link up the top, actually. If you haven't seen it already, go and check it out. Everyone's hopping on saying hello. Hello, Laura, Mez, Lisbeth, Jenny, hello. So if you have any questions for Sharon as we're talking, please feel free to ask in the comments and I will let Sharon know as we're discussing. So let's just give a little bit of an overview to people who might not have come across you before, because we have lots of new members who've joined. So set the scene with what kind of art you make and where you sell.
I'm a ceramic sculptor, so I make sculptures. They're mostly figurative. I started out 5 years ago, initially painting and making sculpture using clay, but then decided just to focus on clay work. 5 years ago that was. Can't believe it's gone so long. Before that, I was a teacher, so part-time and full-time lecturer of art in FE and HE, and taught for a very long time, and then decided to give up and take the plunge and do it myself, which is great. It's really great. I never look back at all. It's probably the best thing I've ever done in my life, living the dream and all of that. It's just fantastic. That's about it, really.
Can I just ask when you made the transition? I'm sorry to ask you this because I know we're terrible with time frames, but roughly how long ago? How long ago did you decide to go full-time artist?
So, I always made. So I always made alongside. So I made sculpture since leaving university in '97. So I always produced work, but it was always a playing. So I'd play at it. I'd play at doing a bit of painting, or maybe have an exhibition here and there along since '97. But then I took part in a master's degree. So I did some more training, and then I took it a bit more seriously. That was in 2003. But then I had some children, and then more children, and then it sounds like I've got a massive tribe of children, but actually I've just got two. My last child that I had when I was 39, that was 5 years ago. Gosh, she'd be 6 now. It's incredible. And I decided not to go back to work. So I think it was really good. It coincided me leaving college and being a teacher with wanting to just be there for my child and have a job alongside looking after children.
Yeah.
So 5 years, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
6 maybe.
I think it's important to state, isn't it, that in those early days, you know, when you want to make a living from your art, in those early days, it is about juggling different incomes and managing it, because it doesn't happen overnight, does it?
No. We in the UK, obviously there's some people here. A lot of the members of the hub are in the UK. We do have tax credits if we have a low income, so we do have government help, and that did help me initially. I also had a few savings set up, and at the time I had my partner as well, so we had a shared income that's coming into the household. I was really poor for a long time, and obviously having a little tiny baby and another child to look after, in a very small house, it's not easy. It's really hard. It's probably the hardest thing, but the best decision I made ever. It's actually really difficult to try and look back on those days, because they're quite a bit foggy, even though it's only 5 years ago. It just seemed like a massive journey that's happened in those 5 years, and a lot has happened in those 5 years. Lots of decision making, lots of right and wrong, and and finding out, lots of discovery. It was before you and I did the, that
Mhm.
it was before, it was during the United Arts Space initially, set up in physical sense.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It was really hard, but really well worth it. Well
Yeah.
worth it. Yeah, yeah.
And
Going
so,
now actually.
yeah, I'm just wondering if you can cast your mind back, because I remember speaking with you in those times where you were having art fairs and not getting any
Was it?
sales, and it was a challenge trying to find your people and your place and get that price point right. And I just wondered if you have any advice, or if you can cast your mind back to that time, and what maybe were the crucial things that maybe impacted the success.
So in the early days, I was I like to paint, so I explored painting. In fact, one of the paintings behind me, here, there, that's one of my early ones that I really like to paint. I like to paint. I like figures, so I was exploring a lot of different media. So I'm trained in as a ceramicist, so I trained in sculpture, ceramics, as a potter, and then went back to do an MA, as I mentioned, in 2003 to focus on the figure in the face, and just really, I really love people, which is, why I was a teacher for such a long time. You've got to like people to be able to teach, or to work with them, at some level, at least. Um, so initially, I left college thinking that I would be a painter, or I would, it would be enough to have one theme, um, such as looking at the figure in the face, to then tie the ceramics, the sculpture, and the figurative drawing painting together. But it wasn't. Um, and initially, in those early days when my daughter Edith, she was little, um, I would go to art fairs in London, in Brick Lane. There's some really good art fairs there that you can go and take part in and apply to. So selected art fairs. I did a few of those, and I made maybe one or two sales, but not sellout shows. And it was and I think now looking back on those, I was definitely coming across as having a mixed messages, through my art. There wasn't that really nice golden thread that, that's a Sharon Griffin, that's a Sharon Griffin painting, or that's a Sharon Griffin sculpture. I don't know what is going to happen in the future, but then I realised, and talking to now a friend, a gallery that I was trying to get into for 3 years, Mary, she said, Sharon, I really like your paintings, but I think you've got something special going on with your sculpture, which would be really exciting to see more of. And I think that made me realise that I was spreading myself too thin over too many specialist areas. So you can't be a specialist in painting and in sculpture and in pottery and in ceramics and in vessels and in drawing. You've got to just choose one and then really fine tune that, I
Mm.
think, now. Um, and then your voice will come through, and then it's the story. For me, it's the narrative behind the work. It's building up my profile. It's the artist that sells the work. It's not the work itself. I mean, obviously the work has to be good,
Mhm.
has to, be has to relate to people. People have to feel connected about it, enough to buy it. So yeah, then after a couple of years of doing art fairs and not really getting anywhere, I had a breakthrough after I chose just one medium, which I chose ceramics because that's my love. It's been with me forever. Um, and I had a breakthrough with a gallery at Finney Park, which is in North Wales in the UK. And that was my first major solo exhibition, with the best contemporary commercial gallery in Wales. So now they represent me. So that was my breakthrough. And then since then, it's just gone whoop.
Yeah.
So that was it. And I think those were the key points.
It was finding those two key people, really, or
Yeah.
galleries.
And listening to it, listening to the advice that was given to you by
Mm.
people who really know what they're talking about,
Mhm. Mhm.
like
Yeah.
gallery owners. They've
Yeah.
been going for a long time and they know their clients, they know what sells, they've seen it, bought the
Yeah.
t-shirt. So you don't actually have to do it all yourself. You have to just listen to the advice that's given to you, not by your
Yeah.
family or friends, but by professionals.
It's a really good point. I mean, we've had people in the hub this week saying, I've asked my partner this, or I've asked my friend this, and they don't like it. And you're right. It's you've got to ask the right people.
You've got to ask the right people. I mean, it's great to have support. If you've got supportive family and friends and they love what you do, that's fantastic. But you're not going to get the right kind of feedback to make your work more successful and for you to
Mm.
grow as an artist. So you do have to, in my opinion, seek out professional help. And if some people have paid for advice, they've gone through like the more formal guidance, so not just going to retrain, but maybe get advice or seek help and advice from like in my experience, the Craft Potters Association, which is a national arts association that is really good for craft potters in the UK and abroad, everywhere, international. Um, there's the RBSA, the Royal Birmingham Society of Artists. There's the Society of Women Artists. There's lots of societies that you can go and actually seek out professional feedback, and you can pay for it. Some of it is free, or join. So it's not just you, or
Mm.
obviously and
Yeah.
you help
Yeah.
massively, Michelle, massive.
So it's about finding your voice in that case, isn't it? And your people, so that you can be clear on the types of people, the associations and the galleries, the type of people that can give you the advice. I just want to step back a moment to when you made that decision of refining your work. So you had the paintings going on and you felt like there was a thread. You've said yourself it was based on the figure. So it was all connected in some way, but you went deeper on the medium and type of art. And can you remember back to, I guess that was a difficult decision at the time, letting go, or the feeling of letting go? And I ask because I know there are people inside the hub who are really resisting the letting go of certain parts to refine.
I hated it. I hated it. Well, I didn't hate it. What did I feel? I felt apprehension, I think. I think that's what it was. I felt very apprehensive about taking the plunge and just focusing on one thing. Because I felt that my work was, at the time, I felt like my 3D work was supported by my 2D. That's what it was. So I really knew about color and paint, but I didn't really know about glaze. So I think so I make figures, and I make figures of our human nature and our human experience on this planet, this big beautiful earth that we live on, in a physical, but also as a metaphor for the internal dialogue that goes on behind what we see. And I didn't know at the time how to create the same kind of ephemeral sort of blurred sort of boundaries that a glaze could have. I didn't know about glazing, and I think the paint that I did in those days, the paintings, added that part of that voice to the work. It's quite a complicated thing to say, because as artists we're really good at saying things without using words. We say it in a visual way, don't we? That's why we're
Mm.
artists. So to
Yeah.
talk about it's really difficult.
Yeah.
It is a very difficult thing to point out and to try and get that feeling across without painting it, without putting music to it. Or that's why we're artists. It's really difficult. It's a skill, isn't it?
It really is. I'm going to
Yeah.
go through some of the questions that are coming from the members. The first one is from Marita, and she said,
Your work.
I know, it's incredible. I'm interested in how Sharon uses Instagram to reach her people. For example, is it the hashtags she uses or networking by following other people?
Okay, it's a mixture of both. I do look at so I use Instagram, I focused on Instagram because I can do one thing really well. I can't do lots of things really well. I can just do one thing really well because I do one job and then it's done. I do use hashtags and I do look at the insights that it gives you. You know, if you go into your Instagram account, you can have a look to see, you can break down who's seen it, how many people it's reached, and how many website clicks you've had from different hashtags. It doesn't tell you which hashtags that, you know, you've used. And I might get like 3 followers on a hashtag, or I might not. I don't know actually how the hashtags work, if I'm honest. But what I do know is that if I follow people that I really like the work and I admire their work, and I'll comment on it, or if I put a picture and some words next to it that support the picture, that opens up a conversation, and that's what I'm on Instagram about. It's about opening up conversations because I love to talk. When I go to an exhibition, or if I have an exhibition or a show or a gallery or a ceramic art fair, then I it's like my chance to connect with people. And because we're on a screen, so the Instagram is on a screen, it's kind of like how I imagine to connect with a person in the physical sense. So I will ask them questions, but not for the sake of it, but because I'm genuinely interested, you know, or so there's a woman who I follow. It's so exciting. Her work is so exciting. It really, there's a few people actually. And I'm genuinely interested in the journey, and I'm genuinely interested in following their journey and their processes, and the way that they change their art and what they're talking about. I'm genuinely interested in that art conversation. So it's about having conversation. It's about making it real and really connecting. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes a lot of time. And now I think, well, I know I do have some really great conversations behind the scenes on Instagram now, on messages. Messages.
I remember you telling me back in the beginning as well, when the art fairs weren't working, that actually you look back in hindsight now and realise that although you didn't make any sales, it was a great place to network with other artists and actually make connections. So it wasn't all wasted. And I just wanted to say that might be people here experiencing the same, but the dots add up, and that's important to think about your who in terms of other artists as well as just the buyers.
It was a really scary process actually, because I always felt 5 years ago I always felt that I wasn't in the art scene, or I didn't know anything, and it felt like I was missing out. So by actually taking the plunge in doing the show and paying for the exhibitions, you know, and invested in like £800 sometimes, you know, which is nearly £1,000, which is quite a lot of money for me then, you know, to invest into an exhibition that I wasn't sure if I was going to get anything out of. Because I did it, I now know what other artists are talking about. I know where the galleries are. I've made connections with galleries. I've made connections with other people that I still keep in contact with. They are following me and I'm following them, and it's like a support network. And it's now like 5 or 6 years ago that I was doing those exhibitions, and now I've got 5 or 6 or 4 years of knowing who they are and following their journey. So I feel like I know them and I'm part of that world. Whereas you can't do that if you just read about it, because you're not part of it. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. I'm curious, you might not know the answer to this because I don't think I'd be able to answer this question, but I'm just wondering.
Let me have some coffee.
I'm just curious, out of your followers on Instagram, how many of those you think have come from the online world versus the in-person world?
Some people have followed me because they've seen my work in fairs. So I now go. So just backtrack. Last year I took part in selected ceramic fairs and events. So there's Pot Fest in the park. There is the Craft Potters Association, which is in Oxford. There is the Art in Clay in Hatfield, and the Celebrating Ceramics in Oxford. So it's up and down the UK, and they're very, very niche markets. They're very selected markets. So ceramics, Marita, this might help you. Because it's clay, you have a little tiny gathering of people that are only interested in that specialist area. If you can get into that world, you're part of that soup, that big mix of, or that little tiny select elite kind of world. So once you're in it, then the die-hard ceramic lovers that just can't get enough of clay, they swarm to those elite sort of shows, and everybody knows everybody, everybody camps. It's a really great party environment. It's brilliant. I love it. It's really good fun. So the customers go there and they don't trust you initially because they've not seen you on the circuit before. So they wait for a little while and they don't buy just there and then. And then they go away and then they have a look on your website and they follow you on Instagram and Facebook and all your other platforms. And they might start commenting on some work, and then they'll take the plunge and buy from you, or come and visit you or go to an exhibition. So it's initially joining like that soup of, specialist area. So really fine tuning that voice initially, and joining those other voices that are the same as yours, and then becoming part of something that's bigger than just your voice.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and that's in all industries as well. I know you've referenced the ceramics there, but it happens in all. When you niche down into a pocket or a pot full of people, your people, that's exactly what you'll experience. I think people think they have to go really big, but actually, the narrower you go, the bigger impact it has, because you get to really know people and they recommend you. And so I was saying this the other day, sometimes it's just those 2 or 3 people that you meet once you realize where your place is that can have a big impact on where your work goes and representing you and putting you in touch with people. So I've got another question here. There's a couple of questions. Yeah.
Before that, there's one story I just want to say. I'll just keep it really short because I'm a bit of a waffler. Last year I put on, I joined the Craft Potters Association, the CPA, because it's a really niche kind of small market. It's a really small club, and it's not small, but it's small in terms of it's really quite niche. Don't know what that means.
Niche.
Sorry. So because I did that, I put something on their newsletter, and it was seen by the treasurer of the CPA, and the treasurer looked on the website for an exhibition. Everything was sold out, and she travelled from London all the way to Cumbria, especially to buy some work, because it was in that little pot of specialist areas. So people will travel, and that was really good. If I didn't have done that, she wouldn't have seen me.
Yeah, that's interesting. I remember Mary saying that when she niched down onto a certain location, and some guy in America found her because she's a painter of the burn. Sorry, I keep saying it incorrectly. Burn. But it is about, becoming known for something, isn't it? So let me go back to these questions. I will be in a meeting, so upset to be missing this. I don't know who this is from. But number 1, how does she package her sculptures for post? So
let's do that one. What I do is I bubble wrap, and then I fill with sawdust, and then I box, and then I bubble wrap, and then box again. So I double box and I send through parcel force because you can't insure ceramics.
Right.
The idea is if you can drop your box on the floor and it doesn't, without going, I've just dropped my box, then you know that you've packed your work. So you can't, and you can get recycled bubble wrap. If I buy in bubble wrap, then I can send out the bubble wrap and then ask it to be sent back to me, so I reuse it. So it saves on.
Eco, love it. Number 2, her Facebook seems to be reposts of Instagram. What are the successes of this strategy on the separate platforms?
Okay, I don't want to have my Facebook there anymore. I just want to concentrate on one. So I prefer Instagram because it feels friendlier. For me, it's easier to use on my phone, and I like the simplicity of it. So because I can post on Instagram, I do it daily. then I can just press a button, it will just go onto my Facebook. But I'm not really interested in keeping Facebook.
Yeah.
I just need to use one platform and do one platform really well.
Yeah, and that's what I advise everyone to do. And I think, I guess, to just explain why. Yeah, because I mean, Facebook and Instagram go hand in hand. And I did exactly the same when I started out. I had one platform that was the main one, and then everything else just got shared to the other platform. Just, you know, it wasn't my main platform. If you need two platforms, 80% of your focus should go on one and 20% on the other. But, you know, if you're starting out, focusing on one 100% is going to get you much more results than trying to manage Facebook and Instagram. Are insane amounts of work. I mean, let's just talk roughly how long you spend on Instagram, Sharon.
An hour a day.
Hour a day, yeah.
Yep.
And
at least.
Facebook.
And Facebook, yeah. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. An hour a day, and generally it's in the morning. So I post something in the morning, and then I might hop on at dinner time or something, and then I go on it at night time, and then I usually have a message or two messages to reply to. So then I get on it on a daily basis. And if I don't have anything to say, then generally I kind of like wing it or make it relevant. So last night I was up until like 2:30 writing for the Jerwood Makers Open that Wayne and myself are trying to apply for. So I'm really tired today. So this morning I'm like, I don't really know what to do. So I just posted that. Here's a picture. I've got stars in my eyes. You know, so at least it's being visible. So yeah, it's not. It doesn't always be in.
Yeah. And what are the three top bits of advice for a ceramic sculptor now trying to get into selling?
Oh, I don't know. Okay. So I think we've covered it. One of them is if you're a ceramic sculptor, it means that you've got the blurred boundaries. So your ceramics and your sculptor. Sorry, I've just phone call. So you're a ceramics, so you belong in the ceramics club, but you also belong in the sculptors club. So it's great for applying to the Jerwood Makers Open and the Crafts Council open exhibitions, you know, so you are a maker, so you're not tied down to those. But also on the flip side of that, it can be quite difficult to get into the ceramics world because they just like you to focus on ceramics. So if you're like me and you just want to explore lots of different materials in your ceramic, I think it's really important to maybe, if you're applying for a ceramic show, have a statement that just focuses on ceramic and clay and glazes and materials, you know, to do with that. And if you're making a sculpture show, or if you want to incorporate different materials into your work, or if you want it to be just about sculpture, not about the clay, then I think you should write a statement suggesting that. So maybe you would alter your statements. So you know, I always write a statement every single time for a new exhibition because it's relevant. So I don't use the same. I've got lots, you know, the bone, the structures. So yeah, be flexible, blur the boundaries if you want to, but also, so 3 top tips. Yeah, get into those little niche clubs. Get into those ceramic clubs. Find your voice.
Yeah. Find your voice, find your people. Yeah.
Yeah, find your voice, find your people.
I thought of another question and it's escaped me, so I'm going to go back to the questions down here.
Is it me, or have I gone really quiet? Have I gone quiet?
No,
Okay.
No, I can still hear you the same. Lots of people are saying they love your hair.
Thanks.
Love your hair colour.
I did it especially for your birthday, Michelle.
Oh, yeah, we had a little evening out, didn't we? Jennifer's saying, thank you so much for this. You are both incredibly inspiring. Been having a bit of a rough day today. Thanks, Michelle, for all the wonderful feedback. You're very welcome. The timing is perfect. So glad.
Thank you.
There's a question here. Where has it gone? My work starts from digital drawings, which I into mixed media paintings, and then eventually into sculptures. Ooh. Do you think I should focus on just one medium for galleries, or do you think there is a gallery that would take on the paintings along with the sculptures as they are the same design and theme?
I think maybe the digital drawings would support your paintings and sculptures, perhaps, or your sculptures could support your digital, but I don't know. I think, in my opinion and experience, I think just concentrate on one thing. So you're either digital drawings or your mixed media paintings or your sculptures. You know, if you have, maybe you could, if you've got a sculpture that you really bloody love and you like the 3D, maybe your drawings and sculptures actually could go on to your so your drawings and your 2D mixed media could actually be part of the sculpture, perhaps. You know, could you turn your digital drawings into digital prints to then be decals or decals, depending on how or image transfers? And maybe that could go on to your 3D work. You know, could it be that? Or maybe, you know, there could be 3D drawings. I think maybe it's about trying to um, find your voice. You know, what is it that you're really, 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 really in tune with and you really love and you cannot let go? What is it deep down that you
Yeah.
really want to say? And that is where you should focus your time, I think.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I think it's interesting to see the process. So you could share that process and say, this is how I arrive at the sculptures. But
Yeah.
you'll run into that problem that Sharon did when you're trying to show everything, that it's confusing and it dilutes your work. But I think once you narrow it down, then you do have scope to go back out, don't you? You know, once you've got your name and your following and you have more artistic license, don't you, then to start introducing new things. So it's best to narrow down at the beginning and then grow outwards.
Perhaps it could be that you only show one element of your art and you keep the other one for home. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to stop doing it. It just means that you maybe don't show it all in one
Mm.
go.
Mm. Yeah. Sophia, I'm going to lean over here so you can see me. A light just lit up inside when you said to fine tune the one medium. I'm playing with oils and feeling very excited by it. Always felt intimidated by the medium. I've got varied works and I'm going to be approaching a few galleries I have in mind. Should I wait to discover this newfound passion, or shall I go ahead with what I have? In your experience, Sharon?
With oil, so is it the fine tuning? Fine tune that one medium and go for it. They can always say no. There was one gallery. It's a 2020 gallery in not much when it's in Ludlow now. Mary and Hugh. They run this beautiful gallery. They're very experienced gallery owners, and they have lots and lots of links with international and fine art areas. They really, really know their stuff. So when Mary suggested that I just have one thing, I've forgotten where I was going with this. Oh yeah, so I really wanted to get into this gallery, and it took me 3 years to finally work up the courage and say, oh, why don't you want my work? Just out of interest, you know, what is it that you don't like about it? And I didn't expect an answer, but Mary, bless her, she did email me back and she said, I just don't like your faces. So then I went, oh, but I really like my faces. What's wrong with my faces? And then took it on the chin. I thought, right, okay, I trust what this woman knows. I'm going to work on those faces. It wasn't that I changed my work. It's just it made me get better at really listening to my voice. So my face is exactly the same as they were really, but they're just maybe fine-tuned a little bit. So maybe go for it now. Go for it now. There's no time like the present. If you feel like you're ready and you're just going to take the plunge, just go for it. They can always say no. And if they say no, try again next year or in a few months' time, or it's not the gallery for you. Go for it. You don't have to wait until you're like at your best, because no one is. It's all a process and it's a journey. Gonna have a starting point somewhere, aren't we?
Yeah, and you might get the feedback like Sharon did that just changes something about your work that then the year after they sell. I mean, look at Sharon now. She was rejected, was it 3 times by that gallery? 3 years in a row, and now that gallery has become one of your most significant income streams. So, you know, this is a lesson to everyone that first no and the rejection, you know, if you keep trying, you never know what the future holds. That gallery now sells so much work for Sharon, and she had 3 no's. So
yeah, she's they have so Mary and Hugh are now, I feel like they're my friends. They come over to my pottery sometimes, and they've had to go on the wheel. And maybe sometimes I'll catch up with Mary over a coffee. But I'm in it for the long run, the long game. And I think because of my persistence, my sheer determination, and I am not going to have a no anymore, kind of, I really do think that my work would definitely suit your gallery. I really do feel really strongly about this. And I think maybe they saw, or Mary saw that passion, and eventually she said, "Yeah, sure, let's have a look." And it was about timing, I think. Yeah. And they don't.
Yeah, and
I mean, they
connecting
do
with your
sell
why
things.
as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember you in that.
Are we breaking up?
I remember you telling me a story where you both got really we went then for a minute. So yeah, I think that helps, doesn't it? You know, when you get more connected with your why.
Yeah.
So thank you, Sophia, for that question. Next question is from Nish from St. Albans. Hello, I frequently get messages on Instagram to promote. Is this something you recommend doing?
Oh, yeah, why not? Because, you know, if it says there's a tenner and you know, and they've got a following of 30,000 people, do it.
Yeah, I think you just
investigate it, have a look. If you want to, go for it. If you don't. I don't think that's it's a great question. I do get frequently asked to promote my work on their pages. So then I might send. I've done it maybe twice. But generally I don't really want to. It's not, for me, it's not about growing the numbers. For me, it's about making the connections with people that are my buyers, you know, the people that I really want to connect with, in terms of, it's not, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit. My art is definitely about making connections between another human and another human. So I know that people who really get what I do are either psychotherapists, or they're counselors or doctors, or they are couples of a certain age. And I want to have a long-term relationship with them, and I want them to collect my work, and I want to know where my work is going. So for me, it's not about growing massive numbers, it's about having really small amounts of
quality.
These are my core people. Quality, yeah, over
because
quantity.
quality beats quantity, and that I think, Nish, that's something I would say on that. There's nothing wrong with promoting on other people's pages if they're your people. So it's something to ask, you know, if they are just other artists in another unrelated genre of art, then you're putting your work in front of people who won't be interested. So you do have to do your homework, have a look through and see who their followers are, and ask the question, like, who are your followers? What customer are they? Because it's right, quantity beats quantity. Because you don't have, I know you've got over 2,000 followers, which sounds like a lot to some people who've just started out.
Oh, I've reached 3. I've reached over 3 now.
Well, that's amazing, because that's really grown in the last couple of months then. Yeah. Wonderful. So exciting. It's amazing. My mother was a professional ceramicist, and I remember some fantastic parties from when I was growing up. The people were always so amazingly close and supportive, an extended family, really. That's lovely. I need to find my group too, but with mixed media, it seems to be too broad. And I guess that just comes back to, because all mediums are broad to a certain extent, aren't they? So clay and ceramic, but then when you feed down more into what your work is, which is for figurative sculpture, and it's the same for mixed media. Although mixed media is really broad, there will be some kind of reason why your work exists, and that then becomes the pocket of people. It's like, what is your work saying, what is it doing, and that feeds into your little group of people, and that either comes from why or what your work is. So working through the 7 keys will help you with that.
It really
There's a
will.
pocket of people for everyone, Jennifer, I promise you there is. Someone else said
And what a great story about growing up in ceramics. It is, it's the most, they are the most, so clay people, not literally clay people, but the clay community is such a warm, friendly, fun, like, I think maybe because they play with dirt and they're really grounded, and they're all dancers and musicians, and they all have camper vans and children. It's just lovely. I love it. It's just really lovely. What a brilliant
But I
experience to
like
have.
what you're describing, people like you, though, and I think that's
Yeah.
no coincidence. It's when you start to go through the 7 keys, you like attracts like, and you will end up starting to carve out your own art, your own place in the art world, and it will be where you're very comfortable, and it'll be with people who understand you and like you, and so yeah, I love it. I love it. So sculptures are a mixed medium, not just clay, but also metals. Is there a selected niche for the mixed media sculptures? Did you see that? Sorry.
I don't know. Have a look at. I think maybe get into sculpture groups if you join. There's a really great sculpture. Not sure where you are in the world, but in the UK there is the London Sculpture group. I've forgotten what they're called, but the international one. It's like the Royal Society of British Sculptors or something. So if you get in touch with them and see if you can join them, and they've got mentors, they've got other sculptors. Have a look on their website. Every country has their own sort of national sculpture group. I would definitely get in touch with those kind of people. Definitely.
And you also use a bit of mixed media
I
in yours,
do.
don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, the clay community don't really like it that much because it's not just clay. But I sort of get away with it because I can, and I don't care. I don't care. And actually, I do care.
That's
I do
interesting,
care.
though, isn't
I'm
it?
not lying. I
Yeah,
do.
and it's something to bear in mind, though. I like that you've brought that up because, as you said earlier, people will have opinions and feedback, and you decided to take Mary's feedback on board because you really wanted to get into that gallery. No matter who you speak to, they'll all have a different opinion on the direction that you should go in with your work. And like the potters, they don't like it because it's got different material in and now and it's not pure ceramic. And it's your decision. You can break the rules. You can do it your way. And it's about, you learn, don't you, as you go along, what to listen to and select and reject.
I
That's our
suppose
phrase, isn't it?
if I went, yeah, if I went to an exhibition and it was just clay and it was Puritans, and real diehard clay ceramic pottery lovers and fanatics, bringing mixed media sculptures to that show wouldn't be very welcome, and I wouldn't be invited back to it. So I'd have to, if I knew that it was going to be like that, I would hone that part of it down. But if I was in an exhibition where I have a solo show or a mixed show or a group show with a gallery, I can put in whatever I want. Within reason, obviously you've got to communicate with your gallery and it has to fit well, and it has to be the right kind of mixed media sculptures, but with clay as well, clay elements. But again, I think if you're a sculptor and you use mixed media such as wood, metals, plastics, clay, resin, metals, welding, semi-precious objects, reclaimed materials, recycled, upcycled. If you're using all of those things, then your voice has to be really strong to go through all of those materials. And the materials have to really work well together. So they have to work harmoniously together. And that's a really hard balance. For me, if I was to use clay, I'm really interested in metals because Telford is where we live. Telford is the birthplace of industry globally, rightly or wrongly so. That's a different conversation. But metals, and my family is from Telford, so metals is really important, because we use it in oxides. We use the metals into the clay. It has, you get metals, so it's really relevant to the clay. So that relevance of the metal in as well as the clay fits in that sense because it's got a narrative, it's got a story behind it. So then, I can go and do some welding and, incorporate metals into the clay because it's got a story and it merges and it works well, I think.
Yeah.
But if I was to incorporate wood and metals and ceramics and plaster and everything, I think the materials might give a mixed message.
Yeah. It changes the conversation, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sophia, hello. How do you write about you and your artworks? For example, on Facebook, do you write about and show yourself what you are doing on a day in the studio, or do you write really marketing conscious?
Okay. That's a good question, actually. How do I write about myself and my artworks? I like to keep it simple. So in my very complicated, all the doors open brain constantly, I I choose an image. So in the morning, before my brain becomes like overwhelmed with all the daily routine of children and life, I have a quiet moment and I think about what it is that I want to say. So we're thinking about my journey so I choose an image. I've usually got one on my phone. It's usually on a phone. So I get on my phone, choose an image, and then I really think about what that image means to me. And I'm honest. So, but instead of writing in sentences, I use maybe a tagline. So, like honesty. Let's just choose a word, honesty. It's a real heavily loaded, meaningful word. And then I say it's a really heavily loaded, meaningful word. So it's like a headline and then like a sub line, if you like. So it's sort of, it then makes the viewer, I think, it introduces the story. So then I write a bit more about the story. And then if I've got an exhibition on, then I put where the exhibition is and I put in the title of the exhibition, what it's on for, the address, my email, and I make sure that all ties in with my website. So the links are there. So if people are really interested in what that work is about, and they're drawn into by the words, and then they look at the image. So they should work harmoniously again together. And it doesn't work all the time. Sometimes, like today, I posted a picture of a sculpture that I made last year with a pair of sunglasses on because, I'm feeling a bit tired today. And that was it. It doesn't have to be all the time. It can be really honest. I think maybe that's it. You have to be honest and be authentic.
So you said you use Instagram as a kind of blog, don't you? So you use it
Yeah,
as an extension of yourself. And there's a deep dive lesson inside the hub where Sharon talks more about how she uses Instagram. And I think in that you do talk about how your success in selling online has really come from building those relationships and conversations, hasn't it? It's been really important in your work of sharing.
I'm a bit wary of wanting to sell online. I don't want to sell online. I don't want to sell by myself. I want to sell through galleries, and that's where I would like to do, because it takes a long time to make a sale. Excuse me, it takes a long time to forge those relationships, and I don't necessarily have that time to do it. So because that takes just as long to forge those relationships as it does to make the piece of work in the first place. And I want to make the piece of work. I don't necessarily want to make really lifelong friendships with a lot of people because I don't have the time. You can't be genuine. So my preferred method is to give that part over to a gallery that does have the time to forge those relationships and to look after customers. And I love it. I love it when it does happen. But I don't actually necessarily want to sell online. There's one good point actually. If someone does come into me, through Facebook or email or Instagram, and they private message me, my first question is, hi, where did you see me from? And if they've seen me from a gallery, so if they've come to me direct through a gallery that they've seen my work at, I then send them back to that gallery.
Yeah. Out of respect for the gallery, and also
Out
because
of absolutely
yeah,
respect to the
yeah,
gallery.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you're right in that it does take time to make those sales. And I think a lot of people feel, or maybe look at other people thinking they're just making these sales, but not seeing the work that goes on behind the scenes to build the relationships, especially with the higher ticket priced work. You know, it's very rare to just put it on and then it just sells. It is about conversation, because it's a more invested and considered purchase, where people, like you said, like to contemplate. They'll go and look at your website, they'll come back and comment a few times before they actually make the decision to buy. So it does take up a lot of time, doesn't it? Which is why galleries taking the 50% is definitely worth if you get a good gallery.
Isn't it ever?
Oh, Simone's tuning in from Trinidad. Amazing. She's in a meeting listening in. I love it.
Wow.
Oh, Deborah said, I'm sorry, I'll have to catch it later. My toddler is on a mission today.
Oh.
Here we go. There's a question here from how do you balance marketing your £10 bird sculptures with your higher end priced items? I'm doing some entry level mini paintings at 30 to 40, but I still want to be clearly selling the 300 to 400 pieces.
Okay. The £10 bird sculptures was a different thing altogether. I didn't want to sell them, but I couldn't afford to give them away. So I priced them at £10 because they wouldn't be in competition with the higher end pieces. And I wanted to that was kind of a project for myself that I really wanted to share a bit of hope and a bit of love around the world when, you know, we're through that pandemic, because it's a really pretty shitty time for everybody globally. And there's a lot of negativity. And I wanted to do something about that for myself, really. So I sent out many little tiny birds, and I'm still sending them out now. A lot went missing through the post, which isn't great, but it happens. And so that wasn't really a marketing kind of ploy, but maybe it turned out that it was, because I think maybe that that need to give, you know, we all want to give, don't we? We want to give, and we want to make people feel better somehow, you know, do our bit. And for me, making those little birds helped my mental health, and it helped me feel better, you know, to give out some, you know, some little bit of hope to someone else, or maybe brighten someone's day, like a little card perhaps, but my own version of a card. So the higher end priced items, I didn't intend on selling through Instagram at all, and I don't. For the record, I don't sell on Instagram the high end ticket items. If anybody is listening, I would prefer people to go through the galleries to do that. But I have sold maybe 10 kind of, maybe 10, no, 5, between sort of 5 and 10 pieces around the sort of £500 to £900 mark over lockdown. And I think because I think I'm okay on doing that. I don't want to annoy the galleries, but I feel like because the shows, the ceramic fairs have been cancelled this year, I do need to have that income coming in. So I have done it through online, through Instagram, if someone has approached me. But first I ask them if they've approached me direct or if they've come through a gallery.
And that's your mid-range, isn't it? Your 500 to 900 price point.
Yeah, that's so the 500, so the 300 to 600 is like so 300 is like my entry level, and then to 5 to 6, 7 is my mid range, and then 9 to 1500 is my higher range at the moment.
I think with the birds,
to smash that.
I think with the birds, Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. I think with the birds, they sometimes, yeah, you probably weren't using it as a marketing tool, and that's nice. You were doing it because it was your why. You know,
Yeah,
you're really
hold on.
connected
I'm
with your
just
why.
going to.
Um,
Just my son has come into the living room.
all right,
Hello, Adam.
I'll keep
I'm just
talking.
come.
And I think sometimes you, as an artist, it's great having those pieces that bring attention, and that's what the birds did. It was a connection piece that
Yeah.
connected with the why and other people's why at that point, and brought you lots of attention over, and they did really, really well. And I think there's sometimes a place for that. But I know Lottie's asking in terms of hers, so she's got her entry level 30 to 40, and she clearly wants to be sending the 300 to 400. And I think that once people buy those 30 to 40, it's about capturing them either on your email list or, you know, making sure that you keep in touch with those people, because they're highly likely to buy from you again. Those people are highly likely at some point to turn into the 300, £400 piece. And what I would do is collate those people and keep in touch, send them a message every now and again, make sure they're on your email list, knowing what you're working on, and you feed it in through your email list and say, hi, I know you bought from me ages ago. I just want to show you new work that I'm working on. It ties in, and just keep, like Sharon does, keep the conversation going and keep the connections going, I would say. Because you found that as well, haven't you, Sharon, that the people that bought the entry level or the lower price graduate up to buying a more expensive piece?
Yeah, they do. They do, but I think it's, for me, it's like vice versa. So it's entry level up and up to down as well. So
Yeah,
it's up and down.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not sure whether it's the price. I think it's about the work.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know that if someone really likes a bigger piece and they really love it, the galleries offer like if they can't afford it straight off and all in one go, they will offer payment plans. There is a way for that person to buy that work. I'm not sure whether it's the price that is important. I think it's the work first. And I would push the oh, I would just not make it available. So not make it available all the time. I would make it really special. So if there's something that I really, really like, and I think, oh, this is a really special piece I've just made here. I am not going to release this to anyone. I'm going to keep it for a while and sit on it, think about it, write about it, and make a body of work around it. And make it really special. So it's kind of maybe that earlier kind of thought about keeping it in a really nice little tight special, you can't get in here kind of psychology thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So
Mm-hmm.
you make it really special and it's
Exclusive. Yeah,
unreachable. So
yeah.
you kind of draw up this you gather momentum and then you say, right, this little thing that you have to wait for is now going to be available here at this time, and you send it out and it's only there, you're not going to get it anywhere else. Whereas if I've got, there's little fawns that I've been making little fawns during lockdown because I need something to do, and some little drips in the bucket, because the exhibitions have been cancelled during the summer holidays. But I haven't just been going, oh yeah, there's loads on my website. I've been saying I've made them in batches. There will be some eventually. I don't know when. There might not be. But the little fawns are going to go on the website at this time. And then I open it at a certain time and then they're gone. That's it. So it's kind of, it's not necessarily about the price, maybe. It's about you are how you are making your work available, perhaps, is the question.
Mm. Yeah, it's the psychological triggers, isn't it? They making people feel like it's exclusive and giving. We were talking about this last week, giving people a deadline and or making it feel special in some way.
Yeah.
I think it's a really, really good point.
Because your work is special. It is really, really special.
Yeah, yeah. Rebecca's asking, what's the best way to approach a gallery? Is it by email?
Don't know.
I'll answer this one. The best way is every gallery is different, and you can ask every gallery owner how they like to be approached, and some will say email, some will say I like them to pop in, some will say I don't like speaking to anyone and I like people to be referred to me. It really depends on the gallery owner. So every single gallery is different. There's some that really like you to just come in with your portfolio off the street. So it's a really good idea to look at the gallery, find out who's in there, look at their application process on the website, and try and find artists and have a chat with them and network with them and find out the process of how they got in there.
Don't they? Galleries like to find
Yeah.
you. They
Or
like to
referrals,
go, like I found.
Yeah, and referrals, knowing the other artists. And you've said this before, haven't you, that a lot of the connections you've had are other artists introducing you to them, because they get inundated with applications, don't they?
Yeah.
But you actually found Finney Park. Well, no, it was kind of a mutual discovery on Facebook, wasn't it? Where they put a call out for sculpture artists, and look what that's led to. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Judith's asking, I have difficulty selling oil portraits. Should I swap to doing still life or landscape paintings of a smaller size and price for sales?
No. Maybe. I don't know. If you're really into portraits, maybe really go for portraits. Be a portrait artist. Join the portrait societies. Get someone to sit for you. That's really important. Draw portraits of people. If you put a portrait into a gallery, the gallery won't sell a portrait of someone that they don't know. Portraits are really specific to the person. So maybe a gallery isn't your market, your target market. Maybe it's people that you need to be talking to. But yeah, if you want to make landscapes, still lives and landscapes are completely different to portraits.
I think
so it would be why. I would ask why would you want to swap your your oil portraits to still life or landscapes, because they're completely different subject matter.
And having known Judith and spoke to Judith before, I think Judith has some resistance around taking commissions to paint portraits of people because of bad photographs. So that's something. Yeah.
So I've had that experience before.
I guess it really does come down, doesn't it, to it is possible to become a portrait artist, and it's about creating those boundaries and saying this is the kind of photograph that I need. And it is different, like Sharon says, so it won't necessarily be about galleries, it will be about word of mouth and how you generate, looking at the purpose of a portrait and teaming up with why someone wants a portrait, milestone birthdays, christenings and weddings and things like that, and they become your who. And it's about then coming up with an incentive of people referring you and things like that. That's
really good advice. There was one artist. So I don't know, Judith, if you know this, but when I first started out, I became a portrait artist in oils, and I painted a portrait of my friend who passed away, and I put the painting into an open arts competition in Shrewsbury in Shropshire, and it won first prize, which is amazing. And I painted another portrait of my friend and put it into an exhibition. So open arts exhibitions would be really great, because then it gets you people. You have to pay maybe £15 to put your portrait in there. But if you've got a really great portrait and it's on display, other people will come in and go, wow, that's an amazing portrait. Could you do my dog, pet, person, rabbit, whoever, child, my dad who sadly passed away last year, all of these, you might get lots and lots of commissions, but I would strongly suggest that the photographs have to be right. There was one point where I made I painted a portrait. I took on a commission for a portrait of a young woman who sadly passed away. Really, really tragic story. And I had about 5 photographs of this young woman, and none of them looked like each other. So, and I didn't know the young woman, and it was commissioned from her mom. It was such a hard portrait to paint. It was really, really difficult in terms of getting accuracy, getting the likeness, getting the finishes right, getting just the face tones correct with looking at these photographs. So perhaps that would be a just a little handy little tip. Perhaps it would help or not. And maybe take your own photographs. Say, right, just add another couple £300 on to your portrait prices and say, I will come and take photographs of you.
Yeah.
So that's included in the price.
Yeah. Well, it does go back to your why, doesn't it? And you can swap to landscapes, but if it's not something that you're really passionate about, you'll have the same problems of not being able to sell because it's not like the why isn't there, and so yeah, it's about really tuning in with whether you are passionate enough about portraits enough to go out there and do all of that work involved to generate the interest and where you want the portraits to go. But if there is a love of landscape, then right, hopefully that's helped.
You know, is it about being a painter? Is the paint enough, or is it about being portrait? You know, what is it that really gets you going? I want to be a portrait. I like people. You know, in that case, paint people. Does it have to be a portrait? Could it be about a characteristic that everybody sees in a person? You know, a more generic painting of a person or a person's face, or does it have to be specifically a portrait? So there's lots of questions there, isn't there?
Yeah, and actually, you just got me thinking about, you know, you could even, it might be the non-commercial galleries that you go through and have an exhibition about the face and the portraiture, and that gives you exposure. There's lots of ways that you can get exposure within the portrait niche, the world, but you've got to create that need in your work and the conversation around it. Right, I'm going to rattle through because I'm just noticing the time and we've gone over, and there's just a few more questions, so I'll quickly ask these ones. Jennifer's asking, I've been approached by a digital marketing agency who want me to promote with them. Of course, I would have to pay for it, e.g. one post, $39, up to 7 permanent posts for $159. What are your thoughts on this? Are they worth it or just a waste of money? So again, it goes back to who are they? Who are their people? Because it's impossible for us to say without knowing who the company is, who their audience is. Sometimes there are people out there just taking your money and they don't really have an audience. Some people are reputable companies who have your access to your who. So you need to have a look at the company and see who their people are. Because if you're paying $159 to get in front of your audience and your people, it's so worth it. It really, really is. So it's knowing who your people are and the company, and are they reputable, and look for other artists who may be shown with them as well. Do you have any views, Sharon, to add?
I'm approached all the time by like books, you know, people who are, you know, bookmakers, and they want to include my work in their book, and there's a 4-page spread for £200, you know, that kind of thing. And I think, well, £200 for me is not a lot of money. Yeah, I'll do it. But I'll check out who's in there first. So it's not about necessarily the cost initially. It's about who I am with now. So what is the standard of the art that's in that book, you know, or on that post, or in those bios, or whatever it is that they're trying to promote you. So who are the rest of the artists, and are they on the same point in their journey as you are, you know, in terms of levels of experience. Do your research.
Yeah, because sometimes you've got to really weigh up the cost versus what is it going to bring you, and don't be afraid to ask them the questions like, who are your people? How many are people buying, or are they just interested in following other artists? Don't be afraid to ask them questions like that, because they should know. And if they can't answer the questions, then I would steer clear. So don't be afraid to ask them. Les is asking, Sharon, do you use a business or personal account to show and talk to other artists and niches about your sculptures?
I use a business account. So my Instagram is business. It's not personal. So my personal account is Sharon Massey. So my name is Sharon Massey. That's who I am. But my artist name is Sharon Griffin. So my Facebook is Sharon Griffin. My website is Sharon Griffin. If I go to an art fair, it's Sharon Griffin. If I'm on Instagram, it's Sharon Griffin. So that means that I can keep my personal life to myself. I don't want to share photographs of my daughter with everybody. I just want to share it with my personal family and my personal friends, my close friends. So yeah, I do definitely keep them separate. Good question.
It is. Someone saying, I sent my first email newsletter yesterday. Yay me, yay! It did result in a sale, but I'm wondering if you use email, Sharon.
I do. I should. I don't. That's on my list of things to do. Well done. That's a good reminder. I'm going to write that down. Yeah, great. Well done for making that sale as well.
Yeah,
I don't use email. I try, but I'm terrible at it. So at some point I will. But maybe leave it to my galleries to do that bit.
It's a great point. You don't need to do all the things in one go, do you? You can survive with a social media account, a few connections, a website. You don't have to have everything going. Email is fantastic, but grow into it. Yeah.
One thing I do have, because I've got so many sales from the birds and from the fawns, the little tiny drips in the bucket, I've got 2 full books of emails and addresses. So at Christmas time or winter time, I will be sending out cards to everybody on that list. That's what I'll be doing. So it's more personal. So it's not an email. It won't be an email thing. It will be a physical contact.
Yeah.
That's what I will be doing.
That's nice. That's just a lovely way to engage with your people, isn't it?
Just genuine. It just feels more genuine to me, because it's about touch. My work is about touch. It's not about visual. It's about connections in the physical sense.
Yeah. Is it true that oil paintings sell for higher price as compared to other mediums, and why?
Ooh, that's a good question as well. Don't know about that.
So it all depends on the context of the artwork. And if you have a place where oil painting, a gallery, for example, where oil painting is seen as the most superior medium, and they won't even exhibit acrylics because they look down on it, then that will gain a much higher price. But you can go to an art fair where people are not bothered about the medium. They just want a nice artwork. They don't care what it is. They're the kind of people that just they're driven by color, by texture and emotion and the why. And you'll find mixed media charcoal next to an oil, and the charcoal can be a lot more expensive. So it all depends on the context of the work.
It does. I agree with that, definitely. There's an artist that I know who painted in oils. She painted in acrylics first, and then she upgraded to oils, which are the queen of paints, in my opinion. They're just beautiful to work with and beautiful to look at. Get it, beautiful paint, just really great. But because of the fumes and things, it made it really poorly, so she had to go back to using acrylics. So some of her buyers were like, "What? I've got an oil painting," and now she's not making them anymore. Now it's acrylics. There is a bit of a hierarchy thing going on with her work, especially because she was known for a particular kind of style and paint. So I guess if you really love, again, it's about your why, isn't it? If you really love your acrylics, then you stick with acrylics. If you really love your oil paints, you stick with your oil paints. If you love your watercolor, you stick with your watercolor. Doesn't, yeah. Don't use oils just because you think it's going to cost more to sell.
Yeah. Right, last one from Rebecca. I feel like I asked a stupid question because Rebecca asked earlier how to approach galleries. No question is stupid. Should I not approach galleries then and hope other artists will recommend me? No, I don't think we were saying that as such. It was more that every gallery has a different way of wanting to be approached. Some galleries will love you to go in and email or go in off the street and go and speak to them. Every gallery owner has a different way of working. So it's really important to go and find the gallery that you want to approach and find the way they like to work. But one great way is knowing other artists that are in a gallery, but it's not a necessity. You don't have to know artists in the gallery, but it helps if you know someone, because they can go in and recommend you. But like with everything, there's no rules. You know, you can do it without knowing anyone, you can do it with knowing people, but it goes back to building relationships for sure. And the more you can connect and engage with a gallery, so go into their open, you know, if you want to go into a gallery, go and actually see the gallery in person, go to their shows, go and show up when they've got an opening. Those kind of things help you build those relationships so that when you have a conversation, it's easier. Yeah, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, Rebecca, it's not, the question wasn't stupid. It was a really difficult question to answer, perhaps. It's a difficult question to answer. It's definitely not a stupid question. It's probably the hardest question to answer. So just from my own experience of approaching a gallery, so 2020 gallery that I'm now with, who I love and adore, I felt very strongly about my work being in that gallery, and I tried year after year after year. So I approached it with an email initially, and then because I kept bombarding them, not bombarding them or pestering them, but just saying, what about this? Would you like this? You know, same kind of work. What about this? You know, every 6 months. What about this one? Do you like this one yet? And then why not? And then, oh, okay, we'll answer. So it's about making you known, and in my experience, once you get into that kind of gallery, all the rest will want a piece of you. So it's about getting into a really good gallery, and then you can say, well, I'm with 2020, and everyone goes, oh, are you? You must be really good then. We'll have your work. So yeah, it's that kind of making connections and networking.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, Sharon. I'm sorry we overran. Sorry about that.
Sorry.
No, I just worry about you and your times. I know you're busy making, but I am really grateful and thank you very, very much for coming in today and sharing all of that.
My pleasure.
It's been very, very helpful, and everyone said it's been very interesting. So thank you, and we can't wait to see what happens with your next show that you're working towards. We will keep a lookout on Instagram. Yeah.
I'm gonna make it yet.
You say this every season. I haven't made it, and I've got 50 pieces to make. And you always nail it. So yeah, everyone's saying thank you so much. So we'll see you soon, everyone. Take care.